were released a couple of weeks ago. What I think is critical is to understand what are the underlying factors or drivers that have changed, and the change in this and the stance of fiscal policy, including what you have pointed out in terms of fiscal policy going from a surplus of 0.6% of GDP to a deficit of 1.3% of GDP. That has not changed. And if anything, actually, I think if we look back at PFO, the change over that period was greater than what it turned out to be.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Bragg.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to ask you some questions about housing. So, is housing a top priority for the government?
Is that a trick question, Senator Bragg? Because I feel like I've answered that a number of times already.
Well, is it?
And if you're looking for a different answer, you're not going to get one.
Is it a top priority for the government?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, it wasn't in the Secretary's speech today, so I was just a bit surprised that it wasn't.
Well, the Secretary's address is the Secretary's remarks to the committee. You asked about a government priority. I'm answering that.
Yeah, well, they work for you. So, basically, the government is spending. I mean, the Housing Minister brags about spending $43 billion on housing.
Sorry, Senator. I think I did talk about dwelling investment in my opening statement. I talked about the fact that it has been gaining momentum. I talked about the fact that while approvals have been volatile, housing supply has picked up. So, Senator, I did actually talk about housing investment in my opening statement.
Dwelling/housing.
But the problem is that it's going in the wrong direction, isn't it, the dwelling investment? Because the RBA data shows that in June 26 it'll be 3.7%, June 27 it goes down to 1.1%, and by June 28 it's negative 0.4%.
Sorry, Senator, I'm not sure quite what you're talking about.
Dwelling investment.
Growth in dwelling investment?
Yes, is trending negative over the next few years, isn't it?
I'll ask Dr Grant to answer that question.
According to the RBA.
Good morning, Senator. Dr Angela Grant, Deputy Secretary, Macroeconomic Group. I think you are referring to RBA figures.
That's right.
I can refer to our figures in the 2025-26.
I've seen your figures, but why do you think the RBA is forecasting a drop in dwelling investment over the next few years?
It's difficult for me to speculate on the RBA forecast, but the one thing that they have been clear about is they make a technical assumption in their forecasts about the future path of interest rates. As you would know, Senator, interest rates are an important driver of dwelling investment. That may be affecting their forecast profiles.
So, as I said, the Housing Minister brags about splurging $43 billion on housing. Is that the figure that you use internally, Treasury Secretary?
I'm aware of the composition of that that spend across different measures. I mean, that is again, so I'm happy to answer to the extent that I can, but certainly I understand how the calculation of $45 billion is spread across a range of different programs, and it's a completely reasonable summation across the different government programs.
Okay, because the Housing Minister is a Treasury Minister, right?
She is a Minister in the Treasury portfolio, yes.
Yeah, okay, so...
And I have a group that is focused on housing policy.
But the Treasury have given her that figure of, I think you said $45 billion, did you?
My understanding is that it is over $45 billion.
Okay. So, $45 billion. I guess the question is, well, what are we getting for that? Because overall, we're not getting the same number of houses that we were getting in the past, are we? I mean, we're trending at 170,000 houses a year over the course of this government. Be lucky to get 180,000 houses this year. So with all this money, why aren't we getting more houses?
So I think it would be most appropriate if Housing Group took you through the details of all of the different components of the housing housing programs. They are, of course, focused on a range of different things, including providing infrastructure to support the states to build more housing. It includes the investments that the government's making in social and affordable housing. But the government has also been clear that in an overall sense there are other settings that are important for supporting ongoing housing investment. So
I understand that, but I guess I'm trying to work out why the numbers aren't going up. They're not getting back above 200,000 where they were last decade in the main, given this huge investment. I mean, we hear all this rhetoric. I mean, and this is one of the reasons why I think people, frankly, lose confidence in these institutions, because there's all this bragging about how much money's going out the door, but the results are terrible. I mean, we're objectively getting fewer houses, and the RBA is predicting that we're going to be negative on dwelling investment in the next 2 years, which is right in the middle of the housing accord. So what's going on?
So the MyEFO forecasts that dwelling investment will grow by 5.5% in 25-6 and by 6% in 26-7. That's a reasonably strong rate of growth for dwelling investment. There has been an elevation in approvals. There's been an elevation in the pipeline of dwellings that are under construction, and all of those we expect to support activity in the near term.
I get it. But those words you use then are making my point for me. You're talking about approvals. You're talking about your projections, which sometimes are wrong. What I'm wanting to know about is completions.
We do our best to... So that's right, Senator. And when you look at the approvals data, as I said, I think in my opening statement, the approvals data are always fairly volatile. Approvals are now at a level which, as I understand it, is above our assessment of what the growth in underlying supply needs to be. I think that's the first time that they've been above that level. I don't have that in front of me, but I'm sure I've been briefed along that way.
Okay.
Oh, hang on a minute. Yes, so building approvals have risen to levels above what we estimate to be new housing demand.
But as you know, there's a big difference between approvals and completions. So
yeah, that's right. But it's important that you need to have approvals in order to then get the investment and then to get the completions.
Okay, so obviously, I get that you don't want to cast aspersions on the Reserve Bank's data. I get that, fair enough. But even your MyEFO has downgraded dwelling investment compared to the budget. So why is that happening? I mean, the government's spending $45 billion on housing, and now dwelling investment's heading south. So what's the reason for the downgrade?
So, Senator, you are correct that in 2026-27, in the budget we forecast dwelling investment to grow by 7.5%, and in the MyEFO we forecast it to grow by 6%.
Yeah.
One of the main driving factors of that is we, like the Reserve Bank, take a technical assumption on interest rates across the forecast horizon. We had a slightly higher interest rate profile in these forecasts than we had in the budget forecast. That would affect the dwelling investment forecast in 2026-27.
So let's go to one of the government's flagship kind of housing delivery agencies, this Housing Australia Future Fund. So, Secretary, how's that going? How many houses has that built now?
So, again, Senator, I think that these questions of detail are better put to...
It's not a detailed question.
So, Senator, I think they are most appropriately put when I have
You've got Housing Australia coming.
They're coming tomorrow morning.
The head of the department, I think, is reasonable to assume that you'd be briefed on how many houses the government agency's built. Not a trick question. No,
Senator, but this session is a session about macroeconomic and international and corporate matters. I can see what information that I can provide you with, but these are matters of detail which are where I think it's most appropriate that I have the relevant staff.
Well, 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, let me ask you about the governance then, because there's been a lot of debate about the cohesion problems at Housing Australia. Have you been briefed on this intersection report that was done into the governance of Housing Australia, which cost taxpayers $24,000?
So I am aware of that report, and I understand that was a report which was conducted in it was I think early 2024. So these are issues which I think have been aired at estimates on a number of occasions. So since that time, there have been some significant changes in the leadership and the governance at Housing Australia. Again, you know, the relevant officials will be able to speak to you about the details of how that of those changes.
Okay, so high hopes.
These matters have been taken very seriously by Treasury and by the board. I beg your pardon?
High hopes for the future of the governance of Housing Australia there then?
So these, all I'm saying is these were matters which were raised, I think nearly 2 years ago. There have been very significant changes since then. The issues that were raised were taken seriously.
Sure. Well, I mean, I just have one more question. I mean, I don't know that they're old issues. I mean, there's an article in the Financial Review saying that the agency's only supplied a couple of hundred houses with its $10 billion. So I'm not sure that they're going away. Look, just finally, because I can feel the chair wants to wind me up, and I always like to be efficient with taxpayer resources. I think there's no doubt that the productivity challenge in housing is immense. I think that's been well flagged by you before and by the Treasurer, and indeed there was an economic summit, or I think an economic reform summit it was called.
The Economic Reform Roundtable?
Yep, in the Cabinet Room, yep. Very, very democratic. And so in that outcome from that meeting, there was a promise to slash red tape in housing because it was recognised that was an urgent priority. So how much red tape has been cut from the housing sector since that meeting? So
there are a couple of key commitments at the Economic Reform Roundtable. One of them was to pause changes in the National Construction Code and to streamline the National Construction Code. That was undertaken. The pause was undertaken immediately, and we are currently consulting on streamlining and modernising the code.
Okay, so when will that be finished?
I think that, well, I understand that consultations will close on the 27th of February. So it's under active consideration. The other commitment that was made was that there should, that the assessment, so we needed to fast track the assessments of homes that were currently sitting under the EPPC Act. There were more than 26,000 homes at that point, which I understand were under EPPC Act consideration, and a very substantial proportion of them, I have the figure here because I remember reading it, have been approved.
Okay, so
remember that.
So that was
the change to the EPBC.
That's good.
You didn't support.
So
we got it done anyway.
So that's
so now
it's
true. You come in here and whinge about things you obstruct.
We took it to the election.
You obstruct in the Senate.
Took that idea to the election.
And then you come in here and whinge about delays.
It was good. You changed your mind.
Everyone sees you have no credibility.
I can't cop that from you, sorry, on that issue.
So 17,000 of the 26,000 dwellings which were waiting for approval have now been approved.
What about the new NCC? When will that be approved, do you think?
Can we wind it up now?
Yeah, I just want to get clarification. When do you think the new NCC will come in?
As I say, the existing code has been, so changes to the existing code have been paused.
Yep.
And I'm not in a position to advise on what the timeline is around streamlining and modernising the code, but when housing officials come, then I'll see how much they can help you. I mean,
hopefully
with things like the National Construction Code, there is a very significant kind of change management process which is required because given how many different people engage with the code. So
which is why the pause started immediately.
Hopefully this decade.
And agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We have more than 40 minutes worth of people still wanting to ask questions, so I'll just ask people to keep efficient if you can. So Senator Sharma, you're up next.
Thank you.